Thank you for listening to Jesus Goggles. We're trying to see the world in the lenses of Jesus. In this week's episode, we discuss our relationship with siblings. We present this episode in a fun exchange between an uncle and a nephew based on a hypothetical situation. Peter, you look terrible. What's going on?
I think I need to find my own place. Can't handle my older brother anymore.
Did you fight with him again? What's the problem this time?
I mean, there's no such thing as, my things at home. My brother always takes my clothes, my shoes, without even asking. Whenever I'm looking for them, he just tells me to get it from his room. He doesn't even return it back. Whenever I need to borrow something from him, he's very protective of his own things and will never allow me to touch any of his stuff at all.
Well, did you talk to your parents about this?
Yeah, I did. But my brother never listens to our parents. I even lock my room, but I just don't know how to, he managed to get in through my room and get my stuff. Whenever I need to use my stuff, they're always gone.
Well, that must be very inconvenient.
Yeah, I mean, the thought that my brother can always use my stuff is on my mind continuously. I don't like that at all. He has some talent in making me frustrated all the time.
But isn't there something good about him?
I mean, he's doing well in school and he's pretty popular. I mean, if everyone knew what he was like at home, though, ooh, that's a different story. Even at times when we have something nice to eat, he always eats my portions before I get to eat my part and runs away after. What a guy, dude.
Man, I never heard your story like this. You must be stressed out.
Yeah, I mean, if I become independent, though, wouldn't it be a lot better? Having my own space, no one bothering me, that must be really nice.
Well, I don't think it's going to be that easy, especially as a high school student.
Why not? I can find a part-time job, just live alone. If my brother's not there, I think my life will be just fine.
Even if you think your brother is good for nothing, there must be a reason why God gave you a brother like that. If not, why would your brother be here?
I mean, that's the question I have. Why does he exist? If I were him, I wouldn't even treat my younger brother like that. Can't understand why I have a brother like him at all.
God purposely puts you two in a family because he has a specific purpose. Even in the Bible, there are many stories about conflicts between brothers. But those who overcame the conflicts ultimately became men of God who did great things.
Is that so? Are you telling me that there's a purpose behind what I'm going through? All I can think about is becoming independent of my family whenever I think about my brother.
Obviously, we won't know everything God has planned, but there will be a point of time in which we will know why God allowed certain situations to happen.
That must be right. But I just get stressed out whenever I have to, whenever I have arguments with my brother. I just don't want to fight.
Let me tell you a story about David and see if there's something you can learn from him.
Okay.
As you know, David was the youngest in his family and had 7 older brothers. When Samuel the prophet came to his home with the intention of choosing the next king of Israel, David wasn't at home.
What was David doing this whole time?
David was shepherding the sheep in the field.
Oh, so he was taking care of sheep when something as important as choosing the next king was happening at his home?
Yep, but Samuel had to follow God's order and told David's father to bring him home. Then Samuel realizes that David was the man after God's heart. That's how and why David was chosen to be the next king of Israel.
But David didn't become the king right away, right?
Yeah, he still was very young at that point. Although David was young, God knew that David held God at the center of his heart. That's why God started to train David at a very young age so he could become the better king.
I know that David eventually becomes the king. So, how is his relationship with his brothers throughout the whole process?
So the Bible doesn't tell us everything about David's life, but it seems that his brothers didn't really like him that much. One time, David's father makes David carry food for his older brothers to the battlefield. David's brothers don't really welcome him all that nicely when he arrives. At that time, the Israel army was fighting against a giant named Goliath, and they were afraid. David asked around who defied the army of living God, and his oldest brother, Eliab, immediately scolded him by saying how David only came down to watch the battle and how wicked his heart was.
Yikes. I don't think his brother really liked David at all.
Most likely. Eliab even said who is watching the sheep instead of David.
But in the end, David ultimately defeats Goliath, right?
God proved that David didn't have a wicked heart, but instead, he was a faithful warrior. After that battle, David became an important military general and prepared his way to become the next king.
If David easily lost his confidence because of his brothers, I don't think he would have defeated Goliath, nor would he have become a king.
Yeah, it probably wasn't easy to live as David at that time. He didn't really get as much attention as his older brothers initially, but he did his best to carry out the tasks given to him. The most important thing is that he became a strong, faithful man of God.
Does that mean I have to do the same?
You might be asking why God allowed difficult situations in your life, especially the unfair ones.
Totally agree. There are so many things I can't understand. I also don't like the fact that I can't do anything about it.
If we want to think about fairness, we cannot just focus on what's right in front of us. David went through many struggles, but eventually became a king instead of his brothers. Knowing this, we need to have a long term perspective.
Does that mean that God will pay back to those who made me suffer?
If your brother is clearly doing all the wrong, God will do something about it. Everyone will deal with the consequences that were caused by their own actions.
Then what should I do? I'm so done being patient. I don't want to fight, but my brother is always taking what's mine without telling me.
We have to be wise about this. The most important thing is how you shouldn't be quick to take revenge on your brother.
Why though? Why should I do that?
Let's remember what the Bible says. God said vengeance is his. As I said before, everyone will bear the fruits of their own actions. The time when that happens is decided by God, not us.
That sounds like I just need to wait and stay patient. That's too much for me.
Not everyone can be patient like you. If God has a plan, and he is training you right now, do you feel any differently?
Does that mean I can become a king like David?
Well, there aren't that many kings in the 21st century, so probably not. But there must be some important matters you could handle.
Hmm. That means that. Hmm. That means that I need to be better, a more mature person if I want to become someone like that, right?
Yeah. If it's difficult to love your family who is in right in front of you, serving others in our society and loving them must be even more difficult. That's why it's important to learn how to maintain good relationships within our family and also learn to forgive one another.
That's just so difficult, though.
If you continue to fight with your brother and let's say you meet someone like him later on, out in this world, do you think you will act any differently?
Whoa, that's horrifying. More of him in this world?
Well, there is one already in your house. What makes you say that more of him, don't exist out in this world? Some people purposely try to take what other people have. But you can't always treat them like the way that you treat your brother, can you?
Then what should I do? I already have a hard time dealing with my brother.
Whenever you are about to be mad, you gotta pray. Have you ever prayed about this before?
Not really. I never thought I needed to pray about my brother being this way.
Then don't forget to pray about it from now on. You must remember that you're not alone in this. If you pray to God, God will help you, as He has always promised.
Really?
Yes. And you might not realize how God is helping you at the moment, but sooner or later, He will let you know.
Never really prayed about this, but I should definitely do that when time comes around.
Also, from now on, remember that you might get into trouble if you treat people who resemble your brother in the same manner you treat your brother.
I never thought about this, but it's definitely probable based on how easily I'm aggravated by my brother.
Obviously, your brother isn't doing all that well either. So, if there is a point in which you cannot stop yourself from exploding, you need to talk with him seriously, or have a serious conversation with your parents about how difficult things have become.
I never realized how deep the discussion could get.
Well, who knows? God may want to make you a greater person than your brother, but don't forget that you need to be well trained before you can handle bigger, greater tasks.
Gosh, I gotta tell my brother to grow up then.
You probably haven't thought about this, but there will be a time where your brother will be a great help to you. I know how difficult it is to love your brother right now, but wouldn't there be a day when your brother will love you back?
Don't say that. I'm not even expecting him to love me. If he can treat me better now, I will be really grateful.
I know that's how you think right now, based on what you experienced, but your brother may become your biggest supporter in the future. Everyone goes through big obstacles at some point of life, and it's difficult to find someone who supports you even more than your family. Wouldn't that mean your brother could be someone like that?
Maybe. It's difficult to forgive a brother as annoying as him, but I'll try my best.
I know it's not easy, but let's remember that God wants to train you so you can be used for the greater purpose of God.
Sounds like some sort of a quest to become a warrior. I'll try a little bit more to be patient. Thanks for the tip.
I hope I can hear how your brother has actually changed next time we talk.
Oh man, I hope so too.
Thank you for listening. We will be back next week with an episode on our relationship with oneself. Jesus Goggles is a podcast sponsored by God and Us Community, a 501c3 nonprofit Christian mission organization serving the youth and young adults.